Hello and welcome to today's webinar on how to rapidly transform your customer experience with AWS. This event is brought to you in partnership with OutSystems, and we'll have a special guest from Humana. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as the moderator. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a fun discussion with our two expert panelists, and we want this to be educational. So I encourage you to use the questions box. It's there in your audience console. Of course, we appreciate all your good morning and hello messages from across the United States and around the world, but we also want your technical questions on today's topic. In the handouts tab, I want to point out you'll find a number of special links, including a free trial link for the OutSystems low-code solution. Make sure that you check that out and try out OutSystems for yourself. And then finally, at the end of the webinar, we'll have a $300 Amazon gift card that we'll be announcing to the winner on this live event. If you're watching on demand, of course, the drawing has already occurred. And then we also have our $50 Amazon Best Question prize. We encourage your questions. Hopefully this prize opportunity will help to shake some of those questions loose. We'll be doing a live Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. We'll be contacting the prize winner for the Best Question prize at the end of the webinar, and the prize winner must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions found there in the handouts tab. So with that, I'm excited now to introduce you to today's two expert presenters. Welcome, Mr. Bruce Buttles, Digital Channels Director at Humana, and Mr. Joao Grazina, Product Strategist at OutSystems. Bruce and Joao, it's great to have you. I'll first hand it off to you, Bruce. Take it away.
Great. Thanks so much for having us. I'm looking forward to it. And Joao, good to see you. Looking forward to our time today.
Thank you. You too.
Well, I thought we would start and just share a little bit about our transformation, really taking the shift from a product mindset to a platform mindset. And very topical for everyone, of course, it's in the context of COVID. But if you would, I thought, Joao and David, I'd share just a little bit of our story and how we're using OutSystems and AWS to really make this transformation from just products to platforms. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. I guess the first thing that I wanted to share is that as we made this shift, it was really out of this idea of we want to plan for surprises. We want to be able to create a whole new level of agility and responsiveness to our customer needs, to market needs, and frankly, to the world, at the changes in the world and in general. And we thought, well, how can we do that? And this theme kept coming up is that we've got a great product development methodology, but we need to go beyond that. We need to create platforms that can be quickly assembled, can be added onto and reused very, very quickly. And it's much more than just modularity. And I'll share with you why. But in the end of the day, our goal was to really deliver on our promise, which is human care, Humana, human care. So there was really just three big aspects to us making the shift. First, not surprisingly, really wanted to listen to our customer, to what our teams are hearing from our customers, what's working, what's not, and then frankly, hey, what would be really awesome, just in general. So listening to our customers, to our front line, watching the analytics of our tools and apps that are in production today. What are those unspoken truths? What are those new opportunities that we may be seeing from the data that perhaps customers and even our call center folks are not vocalizing, but we can see them as unspoken needs through analytics and industry trends as well. And then lastly is to finally predict. We need to focus on those immediate needs, but we also be able to predict what is coming next, and frankly, be ready for those things that are completely unpredictable. So as we make this shift from product mindset to platform, what we had to realize was product mindset is terrific, but it really focuses on promoting delivery. You define a product, you build it, you deliver the product. And the platform mindset really shifts us to promote modularity, is thinking beyond those products, but how do we assemble those products, create those products such that they're very compartmentalized, they're very modular, they're very, very usable. Terminology that we use all the time, especially in software engineering, of course, modularity is key. But there's a bit more to it than just simply designing good code. So let me share a bit more. When you think about this idea of platforms really promoting modularity, when we started out, we wanted to be able to build a new pharmacy finder. So that you see on the right-hand side. Well, the idea is, well, we want to make it really easy for folks to come onto Humana.com or our apps and whatnot, and be able to find a pharmacy to go get their prescriptions filled, or order them directly from Humana Pharmacy, whichever they choose. So that was our first goal, was just that. It would have been easy just to solve the pharmacy finder problem. But what we did instead is said, well, what are the commonalities between things like finding a pharmacy? On the left-hand side, you see finding a doctor, a physician, a specialist. What about finding an eye doctor? What about a dentist? And then lastly, when COVID hit, we suddenly realized, oh my goodness, we have to build the capability for customers to be able to find a COVID test very, very quickly. How do we, instead of building just one app, how do we build an ecosystem that would be able to evolve quickly and adapt quickly to many different contexts? So like I said, isn't that just good software design? And you're probably thinking that, okay, Bruce, I get it. We do this all the time. But just wait, there's more to it. Let me share how so. So today, historically, I would say Humana has always had, great apps, but not very, very typical is that when we started, we built a medical and dental finder years and years ago. So you can find a doctor, a medical doctor, or a dentist very easily. And we built that app. And then some time went by and we realized, we need to go ahead and build a pharmacy finder. So it's kind of app number 2. And that was built a few years after the initial team was, moved on to other products and other initiatives, got a new team on board, picked a new platform. And then you kind of can see where the story is going. Then we said, well, we need to be able to find a vision doctor, eye doctors, ophthalmologists, et cetera, which is a little bit different data sources, different type of context. And yet again, a little time's gone by, different team, different technology. So what you end up with is 3 different teams have built 3 different apps on 3 different sets of technology, none of which are integrated. And the customer really feels it is they have to kind of navigate through, what am I looking for? And then we take them down through the path of a very different experience. So that's kind of a normal organic evolution. That's what we had. So we really want to make this shift to, instead of treating each as a product, truly a platform. Well, we brought in a few really smart folks. So obviously OutSystems came into play with really the core platform where we built the apps. We also needed a really powerful AI-powered search engine. So we brought in Coveo, which I had been sponsoring, onboarding them to the company for our universal search platform. So we said, gosh, well, we got this great search platform. Let's connect to it. Let's integrate with that directly. And then lastly, I needed a core development team that really knew OutSystems well and could, adapt to pretty much any data sources we need. And I brought on cloud development resources to really bring it all together. So again, we started with Pharmacy Finder, built the Pharmacy Finder, but we built it thinking about all along, well, we're going to start with Pharmacy Finder as the first context, but what are the commonalities between finding a pharmacy, an eye doctor, a medical doctor, and a dentist, et cetera. And like I said, even a COVID-19 locator eventually. So we looked at what are all those commonalities, and what we realized it was this, if you looked at it as a Venn diagram, it was almost like one big circle with a few thin slices of additional circles around them. And the differences between these contexts were much smaller than I think we originally had thought of. So again, by focusing on the commonalities between all of these contexts, what we were creating is the ability to adapt to pretty much any context. Okay, so at high level, hopefully you got an idea of the concept and the principles, but how did we actually do it? So I thought I would share, Joao and David, if it's okay, I'll just share a little bit about kind of a double click down on some of the technical aspects. So, at a really high level, what we, how we mapped it out, we started building these blocks, thinking about things in the form of different kind of blocks and components. Not unusual in good software design, of course. But again, remember the whole principle is Pharmacy Finder was just the first context that had to be of many contexts that we knew we were going to have. So we defined the UI layer, the search UI, the business rules you see over in the orange on the left-hand side, those API connections into the Coveo search engine, the data structures, et cetera. So, one of the things, and I would encourage everyone that's interested in OutSystems, is one of these outcomes is focus on using that 4-layer canvas in the OutSystems methodology. If you just straight from the beginning, just adopt that 4-layer canvas, it's going to help you tremendously. And that's what you're seeing here is we've got a UI layer, we've got business rule layer, we've got a, connectivity to data and services layer, et cetera. And then eventually you'll see an orchestration layer as we start to bring in the different contexts, pharmacy, doctor, physician, COVID-19, et cetera. And then over on the right-hand side, I thought I would share this a little bit too, is that when we say CMS, it's not Center for Medicare, which most human and healthcare people might think it's content management, which is probably what you're all thinking. And that is what it is. So we also decided we wanted to actually build a small content management system rather than integrate into, say, Sitecore. We really built a fit-for-purpose content management system that was very lightweight and was fully integral to our back office that we had to build as well on OutSystems. So this is just kind of the high-level modular components. As I mentioned, over the left-hand side, you got all the different search components. You got the content management, and of course, the back office components as well. So let's go a little bit deeper. When you think about the different pharmacy finder, again, starting with the pharmacy context, knowing that we're looking for commonalities, these are all the different elements that we found common across any context, whether it be a pharmacy or COVID-19 or a doctor. Forms, there's analytics, there's obviously the search capabilities, the different layout structures, the different facets of the actual interface itself, the drop-downs, the widgets themselves, the details of the data coming back from the API, navigation, had to be a mapping function to be able to easily find the location, get directions, etc. So we started to organize them into these core 9 different blocks. Then going a bit deeper, now you start to see what we really ended up with is on the left-hand side, this idea of a, quote, base finder. So we had all the layout, all the analytics, the facets, the maps, the navigation, and a whole suite of other elements that were all comprised in, again, the Venn diagram, that big center circle in the Venn diagram that really encompasses almost 90% of the functionality and the experience that we found was really common. Then we started to say, well, what's different for pharmacy context? There's some slight changes to the forms, the search, maybe the detail on a pharmacy is different than a COVID-19 testing locator, the actual detail. So we use the base and effectively pseudo object-oriented fashion, the pharmacy app, the COVID app basically inherit from the base level finder. But again, the idea is the ultimate solution is you end up with a finder that can quickly adapt to many different contexts. And that's kind of where we end from the kind of double click down, if you will. And if you look at it kind of all pieced together, this is what we have now is you've got all those common components. You've got the 4-layer canvas down at the bottom, those different layers there. And then you have, again, your pharmacy finder, your COVID-19 finder, the dentist finder. Now we've got the medical finder, et cetera. And we even toyed with the idea. We actually ended up not doing it, but this is really the power of this platform methodology is that we, months ago, back in November, we started saying, hey, we've got all these great finder capabilities. What about a vaccine? Remember, we didn't have a vaccine yet. We said, wouldn't it be great to have a vaccine locator? We said, oh, that'd be amazing. All we need is literally a connection to the data. Boom, and we can stand this up literally in like a couple of weeks with a whole new context, but make it uniform for the customer, regardless of what they're coming in looking for. We can make it really seamless for them. So even back in November, we were ready to adapt to this new context, which we didn't have a vaccine yet. And we were really pressing the business and pressing our medical and clinical practice to consider this question. We saw it coming. We saw the capability that we had. So we were actually pressing our clinical staff, our chief medical doctors and things to say, we should be thinking about this. And if we choose to go down this path and create a vaccine finder capability, we have a solution for that. Would you like us to go ahead and start that work? So right there, you can imagine the switch in paradigm from we're building digital experiences and solutions to, we're pushing us as an organization to be more innovative and think. We're actually leading. So,
instead of actually building the building the solutions after the business has found the need, you're actually ahead and building it from the ideas you find, and you have that that ability to from these building blocks start thinking about the customer journeys and the new business instead of responding to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just completely flipped the entire paradigm in the timeline too. You're right. It's like at that point we were literally leading the organization. It was November. It was early November where we started pitching this idea. We should do this. We should do this. And it was us that started the conversation with our clinical staff. And of course, they were overwhelmed with just dealing with it. So they were kind of like, we love your enthusiasm, but can we get back to this in about a month? So we did. We continued the conversation in December. As that netted out, I'm sure people are wondering, so I'll just answer it. If you're wondering, well, why didn't you do a vaccine finder? The main reason why, it really was just a business and a clinical decision on our part, is that when we saw, we suspected that state and local governments were going to have a tremendous struggle with the vaccine distribution. And clearly there has been some. But if you compare that to the state of finding a test in the early days, vaccine distribution has gone much, much more smoothly. And the data sources and capabilities outside of Humana have been much more readily available. So what we decided to do is, instead of building our own, we said, well, let's just partner with the federal government, basically, that's offering the ability to quickly find where you can get a vaccine, the local county level registries that are out there to distribute the vaccine, that have to be there, rather than us duplicating that. But it was nice to know that we started this conversation very, very early on, and you're right, it changed the paradigm. We were able to lead rather than wait and react to the requirements.
That's great.
So that's really the end of what I wanted to share with our story. But again, the backstory is that as we shifted this mindset and promotion of delivery to really modularity and reuse, and the platform's approach really helped us make that shift to be able to be proactive leaders in the organization rather than wait for the requirements from the business and then deliver quality.
So first of all, for those that are attending that don't know what OutSystems is, OutSystems is a modern application platform. It enables organizations of all sizes to tackle any kind of critical applications, and being workplace innovation type of applications, operational efficiency, or in this case, customer experience transformation initiatives. I remember back in I think 3 years ago, first conversation I had with Bruce here, he said something like, we started with OutSystems, we had a plan laid out, and we executed with half the team, half the time, double the features. And this is paramount to what OutSystems represents. It allows users to build applications quickly, build them right, and build them for an ever-changing future. And this is the part of the story. We couldn't make this story back then, but we can now. The fact that you started building with these principles in mind allowed you during this time, during 2020, the year that goes in written, to be able to respond really fast to change. So allow me a moment to go a bit deeper into some internal aspects, and let's discuss here why you didn't mention them. How do we enable this approach through a cloud native approach with OutSystems? So the platform automates many of the repetitive tasks that traditional developers don't have to worry about. Some of these internal aspects enable mission critical applications, and this little moving diagram that I hope is streaming okay to you it tries to depict all the complexity that is bundled in the platform and is served as simple things for developers to use. And so let's go deeper in some of the aspects. First of all, security and scale. Whatever you build with OutSystems is automatically mission critical. There is no added effort or complexity to build the applications right. It has visual modeling, and this stands for being able to abstract a lot of the complexity in something that is natural for us humans, which is recognizing patterns and recognizing flows much better than reading them. It has scriptless deployment, cloud native architecture that is combined to be able to provide you the peace of mind. And at the same time, it has enterprise-grade security. It is built from the ground up to ensure that applications are secure from design time. And whenever, and this is something that all of OutSystems customers benefit from, whenever a new application thread is discovered, it is OutSystems that continuously updates the platform so that all applications, our customers' applications, get the benefit of the fix. So, and there's 270 automated security checks that give you the confidence to put applications out there and know that they are safe, preventing you from all sorts of attacks like denial of service, to preventing malware threats to mobile applications. So on scalability, we have a cloud native architecture that is designed to take advantage of, in this case, for instance, AWS cloud, horizontal and vertical scalability that allows, for instance, Bruce, if you had a peak usage on your COVID tracker because everyone wants to get their tests, how would you go about that from your words?
Yeah, well, back in the old days, meaning I think the way most folks run their cloud, let's say you are on a cloud. Let's first make that assumption that you've evolved to that point. Yeah, I'd have to call it the cloud team that's going there, and they'd have to obviously have the knowledge of AWS or GCP or whatever cloud you're running on. Allocate those resources, set up the deployment, make sure those nodes are all running correctly. Blah 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 blah. I mean, honestly, while we could scale quickly, it'd still be a lot of effort, but it wouldn't be nearly as quickly as what we're having here on OutSystems, and it would take a small team, a small army almost, to go do that, to scale out additional servers, add different nodes, verify them, bring them into the ring, make sure they're behaving correctly, they've got the right monitoring installed, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
It's still a lot of work, even when you are using a cloud.
Exactly. So you could scale with OutSystems, you can scale the number of front-end servers, you can scale your database according to your needs. And you have that peace of mind that if that situation occurs, you don't have to have a big team to manage a big set of farms and have everything ready and monitoring everything. OutSystems does that for you.
Exactly, and that's one of the nice things, that we have basically an OutSystems quote administrator, just like one person, that simply just goes in there and says, hey, I want to add 2 front-end servers, click, go.
It must be a superhero, right?
We sit there and wait for it to spin, and then it's online. And the other thing is that we would rarely dream of doing this during the middle of the day unless we really, really had to. Again, with OutSystems, it just adds that extra layer of kind of technology abstraction over AWS. It just makes it easier for us. Less resources, more repeatable, and a lot less risk.
So you don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't have to. It's nice to know that AWS is there and that we have that power of AWS behind the scenes, but it's even better to have that pairing with OutSystems, that we don't have to have a team of AWS engineers as well. You're not going to just one person go in there and scale up the database if they want to add storage. Click, and it's done.
And so this partnership we have allowed us to go even further in terms of automating all the necessary steps with the visual and completely seamless platform. The other aspect I was going to mention is, because we do generate code and we do make sure that everything is set up correctly from the point that you start building your applications, your business logic, everything that matters to you. You build what matters. Everything that is non-functional requirements that you expect to be there, usually you have to have a team dedicated to this, to do checks for security in every field that you have, in every database, exposing exposure that a developer may forget. The platform is patched recurrently with new security threats that are found either on any of our customers. When the security threat is found, it's very quick to get to other customers that have not found that security threat before. We have certain editions of the platform that have cloud VPC and VPN, allowing these customers to run an even tighter security model. And for mobile applications, we have the App Shield that provides this layer of security against malware and threats to mobile applications. There is a substantial amount of compliance standards that the platform provides for all our customers, with dedicated SLAs and SOC 2 requirements. So all of these things combined, if you are running your on-prem infrastructure, or even if you go to the cloud and don't check all the tweaks during a traditional code, this is something that is on your teams. Bruce, can you share with us some of the ease of mind that you may have had or not? Let's be candid here about these type of non-functional requirements with OutSystems.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the pieces that, frankly, me as a digital business executive gives me helps me sleep well at night the most. Before OutSystems, the typical methodology, of course, is you've got all sorts of quality controls with your developers. Maybe you're doing pair programming. Maybe you're just doing extensive code reviews. You're doing code scans, automated code scans, manual code scans, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when ultimately you find yourself constantly saying, man, I wish every developer I had was like Susie. Susie follows every protocol that we have to the T. She never, ever, ever makes a mistake. And it's like we've cloned Susie over and over and over again, because the code gets generated the same way, the same principles all the time without fail. And that's the beauty of the platform, I feel. And frankly, sometimes it's the cultural shift that we all have to wrestle with. Is as software engineers, typically we love automating other people's jobs, but when it comes to automating our job, coding, sometimes we're not okay with that. We like to write our own code. But the fact of the matter is, we also say, I wish I could clone Susie. Well, this clones Susie. And it makes the repeatable protocols that we have just constant. And what's more is that what I found, so the true story, we launched our first app about 2 years ago at Humana with OutSystems. And of course, it went through the penetration tests and all the security reviews, kind of from outside in, black box, if you will. And we got the cleanest, best security score out of any app Humana has ever launched to that date. And it was our first one. And I attribute that because of the fact that not only is, because the code is generated, it's got the same level of scrutiny and security and repeatability. It's the machine that's generating the code. It doesn't make accidental mistakes. It doesn't miss steps like a human would. But also what I found, and I've been using OutSystems for about 6 years now total, about 3 years at about two plus years at Humana. It's this, I think you're hinting to it a little bit, but obviously the security landscape changes constantly. So that's the other big thing, is that it was like you all had already adapted to threats that frankly our security team hadn't even yet built into their testing protocols. So by using the platform, we were a bit ahead. So hopefully that helps give you a couple examples.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's better than I could explain. let's just move then to the other aspect of the ease of mind that that OutSystems brings with with this set of capabilities that are just packaged in one platform. The platform has built-in comprehensive auditing of all the activities performed by developers, application managers, system administrators. We have security logging, reporting, and automated tracking of end user access to applications, components, and screens. So this provides a level of a very granular level of monitoring and auditing of the system where your information may be compromised by misuse. On the other side, we have some very comprehensive architecture tools in the tool belt. Architecture dashboard, for instance. Bruce showed us a map of a part of the system he has implemented, and one of the tools that we have to manage this this complexity, manage technical debt, is architecture dashboard, which helps IT leaders visualize and govern complex cross-portfolio architectures, identifying some of the issues that developers bring to the solutions early on in development cycle by not introducing the right set of best practices, and ensures these applications are secure, resilient, and they are built for scaling, for the future where you want to build something on top, and the architecture needs to be sound to be able to build that quickly. And they also validate performance, validate that teams are able to avoid costly design errors and avoid duplication of effort during their work. On the last side of it, the lifetime is one tool that I'll explain a little later as well. Is also one of the tools that allows a comprehensive role-based model for large factories. If you have 3 teams and some teams need to be working on those top finders and other teams are worried about the core functionality that needs to have a little bit more architecture considerations, there is this authorization model that supports different organization needs. From simple to complex, with multiple lines of business working on the same products. And this is the keynote, the keyword. It allows you by default to start working on products instead of just small projects. I mean, you can do projects if you want, but very fast. If you want to scale your efforts, you will understand that this is possible by doing this. I will go later on lifetime because there's more to it than that. But I think this also falls into what you were saying about the 4-layer canvas. Architecture dashboard, for instance, has a very defined set of best practices on where the models should be in order for them to not start referring to themselves and then have the problem of how do I refactor this when I need to build this other thing that this will need. Are you using architecture dashboard, Bruce?
Yeah, we are. We've just started using it about a year ago or so, and you know what I really like about it is there's OutSystems is terrific at building things very quickly. So you can build things. You can build a really fast application very quickly, but you can also build it poorly very quickly. In that. It's real easy to build a big monolithic app, just like that, if you're not paying attention. I mentioned the 4-layer canvas. So, which frankly is really great in the early days of a concept. In 15 minutes, we can build an app that starts to display some of these new ideas. And maybe it lives on, or maybe it's just a quick prototype that you can kind of throw away. But the point is, the architecture dashboard really helps us look at as it's been a few years now that we've, 2 years now that we've launched our first products. They continue to evolve constantly. It's really great to just keep an eye out. Are we keeping ourselves accountable to the principle of, decomposing this thing into different layers, thinking about it modularly, and like I said, keeping that platform mentality in our case. So yeah, it's just a fantastic checkpoint that you might go in once a month, you might go in, once a quarter for different contexts, and just take a look at it and say, how is it shifting? Now, are we starting to put too much business logic into the UI, or should that be pulled down into a common business layer, for example? It just makes it super easy. I mean, honestly, that normally is, it's a small team of architects constantly digging into the code, spending hours and hours and hours and days and weeks with developers, which takes them out of their development work stream to make sure that the developers are staying true to the architecture. This speeds that whole process tremendously.
Well, now you have a whole team of architects built in AI to help you do that.
Exactly.
The other aspect that I'm going up the layers, right? The other aspect of OutSystems is the fact that it promotes full lifecycle productivity from day one. Every aspect is designed to help organizations such as Humana to deliver complete and compelling software solutions, products, quickly and efficiently. And every step of the application lifecycle is taken into consideration, from designing the UI to hooking up the data, defining the workflow, all the way to deploying the application. This is all accelerated by a set of visual approach and tools. Some of these tools are Service Studio, obviously, our IDE. The IDE is very visual in the way developers go about building their applications, and it features the application layer tab. So the developer in one place can look at the workflow logic, the UI, the data access. These are decoupled layers in Service Studio, but built very integrated, so that the developer, when he's building something, is building it full stack and without any specific skill required for one or the other. It's just one visual way of building these applications through and through. The other thing that helps with this is lifetime, like I mentioned. So overlaying our stack is a full DevOps solution that supports continuous delivery of applications. And it includes as Service Studio with one-click publish, where you publish and automatically goes through all those layers, publishing everything and making sure it's sound, generating the code that is sound. Lifetime does this for the different stages of the environments. And it includes the single-click deployment and rollback, full dependency analysis, infrastructure and application monitoring. And on top of this, also AI-assisted software development. As developers go through their development practices, there is constantly AI helping them validate development steps and designed to aid at specific skills during each step, from professional developers to business analysts in the process of building, deploying, changing, and getting applications into production. And because these tools help you achieve full lifecycle productivity, there's also one important aspect that is underlying all of this, which is true change or impact analysis technology that uses AI to help developers address all these complexities created by ever-changing software requirements. It checks for bugs, architecture errors, analyzes impacts of change on components, makes sure that when you do a change, everything is changed, that every dependency is checked and changed when it's automatic. During the staging of across the deployments until production, makes sure that when you publish an application, you aren't breaking things before you publish. And I think you shared this with me before, Bruce. This is something that is really important for you and has made a change in terms of, the healthy lifestyle of your developers.
Yeah, it's so true. And this goes back even to the early days, 6 years ago when I started using OutSystems. So this is also not, this is a principle that it's been in the platform for quite some time and it continues to mature every year. It's to me, it starts with the developer in the development environment, making changes and making sure that what they're changing doesn't break within their own, specific domain. It starts all the way there on one end of the spectrum, all the way through to, the typical deployment into production, or from development to QA, or QA into pre-production into production. When you go from environment to environment, when we go into production today, it's not unusual that it starts on Friday night at 11 o'clock and it finishes Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And it takes a small army of folks in like a 36-hour cycle to deploy everything, to validate everything. And here, we're literally doing it by one person in the middle of the day, which is a complete paradigm shift for so many people. It took a lot of convincing to DevOps teams, security teams, operations teams to go, well, isn't it going to break if we deploy at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's the busiest? Is that really smart? Now, of course, we don't always do that, but it's nice to know we can if we want to. And it's often that when we do deploy, we deploy when we're ready, and we won't necessarily have to wait for a special weekend. So yeah, it's been tremendous, especially you can't understate or can't overstate the impact, the positive impact of being the ease of deployment from one environment to the next environment to the promotion to production. It's just unbelievable. Literally, it's like one person that clicks it and they're doing it during a meeting and they're just watching it.
And all of a sudden, the feedback that you get from your customers can just be implemented as easy as this is an easy fix, next day is ready.
Exactly. I mean, we even had times where it's like, hey, 10 o'clock in the morning, we had an idea, we saw an issue or something like that. And as soon as you realize, oh, we got to change this, it's 9 times out of 10, it's a business rule that we hadn't thought about. It's an edge case we hadn't thought about. Oh, we got to add this logic, add the logic, deploy, test, gone. There's so much risk taken out of the DevOps process. It's pretty astonishing.
Yeah, and this is important for wrapping this this point that I wanted to make. Across these different perspectives of how OutSystems built on top of a cloud technology that is sound and proven, how OutSystems helps you get ease of mind. And this is a platform that gives you more time to think about the products. The example you were making about a mistake that a developer did not implementing a business function. This was not a syntax problem. This was not a miscommunication between things. This was a business problem, business error. And all the while, when you were doing your presentation, I was monitoring to see if you were talking about software issues. You never did. You were always talking about the value that you're delivering to your customers instead of the technology you use, which is great. We don't want to be heard of. We just want your business being implemented. And all this means that from these digital touch points that you have on top, in your case, you described it as a Venn diagram that you just have to have those little layers on top. These digital touch points, if you wanted to build for each of these individually, you have a very large set of technologies you need to tackle, large set of teams you need to tackle. Sometimes it's hard to get the teams, so people are either overworked or things don't get done as fast. And so OutSystems proposes that with this technology, you're actually playing with Lego pieces. I would love for your modules to be Lego pieces and have business representation there. But essentially, you're working with business concepts that are Lego pieces and you're assembling them to build additional value. And the digital touch points you have to touch on top. So adjusting that finder to testing, screening for test, or looking for tests, or looking for doctors, or looking for a vaccination place. This is just the last inch of the experience. Everything you built underneath was built on top of these modules. And to top it all off, with a very small team, with a team that is platform plus people, and can achieve as much as you could with a large team on traditional technology. Because it's a single platform, single technology, you can easily create components that make part of your digital CX capabilities and make them available to be reused across any app or channel. I know you shared with me you have plans for mobile. It will be easy. You remove duplicated development work, while at the same time you are ensuring consistency with your customers and partners. And I think this is mainly what I wanted to point out, is that although we're talking business and we're talking technology, it's the combination of technology between modern application platform and a cloud provider such as AWS that allows you to do this without caring, without even, well, you care, but you don't have to.
That's right. That's right. You know, Forrester, I love their prediction, and you have to Google that. I can't remember if it's 2023 or 2024. I think Forrester said by 2023, I think it is, 65% of all application development is going to be done via some type of low code, like OutSystems. So I think all of us as executives got to be thinking, you know, where am I at on the trajectory? If I'm at, 1% today, how am I going to get to 65% if that's going to be the state of the art in just a few years? And to your point, it's so liberating for me as a technologist and a business person to not be debating over, well, but I like Vue.js, well, but I like Angular, and then on the back-end side, well, I really like C#, but we got a lot of Java code still. It's like, frankly, I don't care. And I love that OutSystems has given me the ability to abstract myself. And even in the 6 years that I have been using OutSystems, I go back to 6 years ago, the very first version of OutSystems I was using was actually Java-based, was generating Java code. But as the industry evolved, Java has become less and less important, C# more and more important. Well, guess what? OutSystems actually made that transition from Java to C# for me, and I didn't have to retrain anybody. I didn't have to retool my Java developers into C developers, and then some say, well, yeah, but with Android and Apple, iOS, that's always going to be the case. I would say look at Android and iOS apps these days. They're evolving even inside of their own operating systems to be much more hybrid today, where it's a mix of content and HTML and JavaScript and native code too.
With PWAs and things like that.
Exactly. Forget the way. And then, Google's got the, all sorts of solutions for fast web apps, little tiny apps and things. So, and then we got Alexa skills and SMS and chatbots and then, you got goggles, VR and all sorts of things. So I would rather not have the kind of technology religious debates over, which tool is the hottest one right now, because whatever we feel like is the hottest tool right now probably won't be in about 18 months. So I really love the fact that I can build an app because the business logic is the business logic. And let's let OutSystems take care of the complexity of, dealing with, the state of the art behind the scenes for me.
Thank you, Bruce. So I guess this concludes this part of the presentation. Back to you, David.
Excellent presentation. I really love the real world use case here. I mean, we all want better, more efficient healthcare solutions. And so it was really cool to hear, Bruce, how you at the Humana team have really just innovated with this technology. So thank you for sharing that. I also love the Lego building block analogy here to software development. I think that's cool. That helps us visualize this and how this solution can just give so much efficiency and allow technologists to focus on the business problem instead of on the underlying technology solution. So we got a lot of great questions coming in from the audience. First few questions here are for you, Bruce. They're asking, how long did it take you to get started with OutSystems?
We're still working on it. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. No. Again, so I go back to the beginning. So 6 years, sorry, Joel, that was for you. No, 6 years ago, honestly, it depends on getting started, your definition of getting started. I will tell you that, I built the first app in about 15 minutes. I went on the OutSystems site, I downloaded the personal environment, got my own, quote, personal cloud. And I said, well, let's just go through this first tutorial, and built a contact app, for my mobile app or for my phone. I was like, that was kind of cool. We did that, and it had a database, and it had some business logic, and it had front end components. I was like, wow, if I can do that through a tutorial in about 15 minutes, what else can we do? Now, people are going, well, that's cool. But I would say, as a rule of thumb, what I found with developers is that in general, once they start going through these tutorials, if they've never seen OutSystems before, but they know development, concepts, about 2 weeks. I found like after about 2 weeks of going through a battery of self-paced tutorials, they can start to be very, very effective in a team. Now, I wouldn't put them off there on their own. I would still have a team lead. But the point is, it takes each developer about a couple of weeks to get up to speed.
Wow, that's
I
not
can
long
share.
at all.
I can share mine as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
I joined
Yeah,
OutSystems around 9 years ago, and the training was like that. It was 1 week of training or so, and then followed by an hands-on project. After 1 month, I was maintaining a large, complex solution at a customer we have that was mission critical. And the fact that the platform is visual and I hate the word self-documented because developers don't like documenting, but that is what it is, because the code is so visible, it's so self-explanatory. It is really easy to get inside what business is being represented there, rather than understanding the algorithms that someone somewhere remembered with a specific pattern that's not already used. And I think that's what made the difference for me in terms of adopting this company as a flagship development company for me. So
Excellent.
great.
Yeah, that's amazing. 15 minutes to get a new application, up and running. I like this question here for you, Bruce. What's the coolest side effect that you've seen from this migration?
Oh gosh, it's got to go back to that theme where I said at the end of the vaccination locator concept. It just completely, I didn't really see that coming. What I was so focused on intentionally was time to market. How can we, take a problem, take a need, and turn it into a solution at very high quality, very high velocity? How can we do that? And that was our goal. But as we even pushed the envelope even further, and again, it took us about a year and a half or so to get to this kind of platform mentality, we shifted to completely leading. I mean, what technology leader out there in the audience wouldn't want to be in that position where you're literally bringing new ideas to the business? Hey, have we thought about this? I just wanted to let you know we have this capability in our back pocket. Should we ever need it, we can enable it, we can tweak it, we can adapt it very quickly before they've even asked for it. And I can't tell you that the conversation change was astounding. And it was just really, it made us collectively feel as digital experts and the engineering team just very gratifying, frankly, to be able to give them solutions before they even ask for it.
I love the idea of that, helping technologists, kind of accomplish their dream of being a business enabler. So that's
Exactly.
really cool. And now I know you talked a little bit about security in your presentation, Bruce, but there are a few questions here around how secure is this? What's your experience been with that?
I guess I'll just kind of bring home, I'll repeat a couple of key points again, is that the automation of the code generation. When I was pitching this idea of OutSystems, way back when, 3 years ago when I joined Humana, I use the analogy of Henry Ford. Henry Ford back in the early 20s was completely revolutionary in the way he created this assembly line. He automated the process of creating an automobile such to the point that anybody in America could afford an automobile. It was revolutionary this day. And you had, one person installing tires all day long. They just installed tires, right? Well, if you look at the modern factories for cars today, who's actually assembling the cars? Robots. Robots are going in there and they're welding the cars, they're assembling it. And, there's people involved in some parts and pieces. But by and large, it's like we have taught the machine, we've directed the machine how to build an automobile. And that's the same thing that OutSystems allows us visually to define, for example, the business logic. It looks like a Visio diagram, which often we have in our requirements documents, by the way. It's like, I've stopped even using Visio, and we just simply go into OutSystems, lay out the visual Visio-like diagram, and out comes C# code. It just generates it automatically. So it's that same methodology where it's like, but by doing so, all of those security principles, as I mentioned before, that we have are already baked in. And honestly, because OutSystems has customers all over the globe, they're adapting to needs and security threats that I haven't even seen yet. They may be happening in one part of the world, and OutSystems is adapting to it, baking it into the protocol, into the code generation, into the practice, and even using AI now to further take it. It's far beyond what I could do with even our own processes that are somewhat automated and our own developers for sure.
Yeah, but if you think about these vulnerabilities, how these patterns of integration with the authentication mechanisms go about, if you really think about at a global scale, every time a vulnerability comes up or any new protocol comes up, you are multiplying this by the number of developers that are tasked with fixing the effort around the globe, right? And what OutSystems aims at doing with this is you fix it once and you replicate it across your entire customer base. We have integration with SAML, Auth, OAuth, Active Directory, LDAP. How many integrations have been built around the world, each with its different, problem, because developers don't implement everything the right way. And if someone goes into Stack Overflow and changes that, all of a sudden, a lot of customers get that modified code. So all of this is scaling the implementation of repetitive tasks and repetitive patterns. And I think this makes difference when we're talking about security, because it's the weakest link kind of missed the word in English. Analogy. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the weakest link kind of analogy, where if the systems are all secure through these types of mechanisms, I mean, there is no way that that the customers cannot understand that this is not good, right? It's simply there.
Yeah, and there's one aspect we hadn't really talked about that I think is really pertinent here. So let's take it one step farther. So let's say OutSystems has identified some new vulnerability that's happening in some part of the world, and I haven't, become aware of that. You adapt it, you build that into the platform, and it's, the next minor release of the platform. You're like, okay, that's great. It's 11.x, but how do I get that 11.x if I'm on 11.x-1 right now? How do I get that? And that's the other part of it. Goes along to the DevOps side. And if anybody's had, as I said, our digital leaders, we all have many different platforms and vendors. And that's one of the consistent challenges. Well, how do I make sure that my app can be upgraded easily to the next version? Well, I got to say, like we just went through this last week. There was a few enhancements that came down with minor versions, and it's almost academic. And typically, it's a big effort to say, oh, we're going to get a new version from the vendor platform. And again, it's a big effort. We got a regression test. It's weeks and weeks of work, and we just finished it, and it was pretty academic. We just had to kind of go through and, hey, make sure nothing was broken. And we had automated testing, just kind of ran through it like it normally does, and everything's good. So it wasn't like zero work, but my point is, compared to what I was used to with most big platforms, the effort to take those changes like security updates that come periodically is very, very approachable. Because again, you guys could solve it But if I don't take that platform version, upgrade, I don't get it. So it's one thing to solve the problem, it's another thing to actually get it to me. And that's the other thing that's been really surprising, a pleasant surprise.
Very cool. And Joel, there's a few questions here about integrations. What sort of integrations are available?
All type. So the platform connects to a multitude of systems, and I can only speak to the real nature of them because there's thousands of vendors, but we connect to several different types of external databases from DB2 to Oracle, SQL Server. We connect. We use. We have REST APIs that you can expose and consume. SOAP endpoints you can expose and consume. It even goes down to, you have a weird COBOL system that has some old DLL files that no one knows how to work. There's one guy in the company that knows how to work with that using a very specific version of that DLL. We have Integration Studio that can actually help that one guy build the wrapper around that functionality, and then it gets served as visual code. So the complexity is completely abstracted from the rest of the developers that don't know that specific system. There's just one point that needs to be integrated using a DLL that is exposed on the system for all the other developers to extract value from. So I would say the integrations are limitless. You have a system that you need to talk to. We have a specific strategy to put the varnish around that old system and just get going fast with the API you've just created, the fast API that you've just created. So virtually no limitations there.
I love to hear that. And then, so where do the applications actually run?
The applications run on our cloud. We have several editions, but we are a cloud-first company. We are running, for instance, Simana. It's on our cloud, running on AWS. And customers that are on our cloud usually get these upgrades a bit more seamlessly because they don't have to go through the work to actually the checklists of installation. But we have several different types of installations. We have customers running the applications on-prem. The underlying notion here is that the platform is agnostic to the technology that is running underneath, and so it's very flexible in terms of where it can run. In this aspect, it's on AWS, and our cloud is AWS.
Excellent. And then I know we're running out of time.
David,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to interject if you don't mind, because I think it's interesting. So we actually have some that we're starting to run on Azure as well, but containers. So first of all, I'd say for folks that, like, Joao gets paid to say we can connect to anything, but I can tell you from a customer's perspective, he's not lying. You really can, and it's been nicely surprising how easy it is to connect to literally anything. But the deployment environments of the clouds, I thought I would just mention that because the container technology that they have built in has been really, really helpful. So we can, like we're actually running kind of a mixed environment where we have AWS environments that we're using for, say, development and tests, but we want to deploy into Azure. We use the container to kind of bundle it up, and then it pushes out to Azure to run, say, pre-production and production. It's just really nice to have that flexibility. And again, OutSystems takes care of all that complexity for me.
Very cool. I didn't know about that functionality with the containers, so that's good to know. And then I know we're running out of time here in our webinar event slot, but a final question I wanted to ask you, Joao, is there a free tier to get started and try this out?
Yeah, I think Bruce already answered that. We have a personal environment for any developer to try it. I invite you to go there now. We have tutorials for any type of developer to start understanding a bit more about what we say, guided tours and specific training even to go through build your first mobile app, build your first reactive web app, and then going into delving deeper into DevOps and advanced scenarios for front end. So there's a comprehensive training plan, a guided training plan, and the platform is free for anyone to use. You just need an email, and I think and willing to spare 15 minutes of your time to give it a go.
Excellent. We'll make that link available in the handouts tab for the audience, everyone. I encourage you to check that out. Bruce and Joao, it's been really great having you on the event today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Take care, all.
And thank you to our audience for joining us. Have a great day.